Well, hey, everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Conversations. I want to talk to you today about confrontation. I believe confrontation is one of the healthiest, strongest forms of leadership. I think if you want to be a leader, you need to be able to confront. You need to be able to confront bad habits. You need to be able to confront culture. You need to be able to confront in general. Confrontation is one of the hardest parts of leadership, especially in ministry. Most leaders either avoid it and let problems grow, or they mishandle it and cause damage. But here's the truth. It's impossible to be a leader and not confront. Even Jesus himself confronted people, not to shame them, but to call them higher. And in this episode, we're going to talk about why confrontation is necessary. How do you approach it with courage, care, and how it can actually build a healthier church culture if you're right. And I want to jump right out in the gun. I'm going to give you 3 easy tips for confrontation in ministry, and then I'm going to kind of break it more points. But the reality is because it's impossible to be a leader and confront, these are the 3 ways that you need to confront. Number 1, pray before you speak. This is something super practical. If you're not praying before you confront somebody, you don't love them. Confrontation without prayer becomes about you, not about God's heart. So you want to always make sure you're praying for that person, praying for the conversation, praying for yourself for wisdom. So pray before you speak. Number 2, address the behavior, not the problem. So just call out what happened, not who they are. Keep their dignity intact. This one's super interesting. You got to address the behavior, not the person. What I would say is address the pattern, not the person. So here's what I'm seeing, and just make sure that's what it is. It's just what you see. That means that it's not absolute. It is more nuanced, and allow them to have a conversation. That's how you actually pastor people. You speak to a pattern, not a person, because you don't want to label somebody. This is who you are. This is what I see. No, here's what I'm seeing, and then ask for them to share. So share, repeat, share is kind of the easiest formation there, but pray before you speak, address the behavior, and then end with restoration, not destruction. Every confrontation should leave the door open for healing, growth, and continued relationship. You know you're good at confrontation because after the conversation and confrontation, the person is actually encouraged and more hopeful that God really does restore, and God can turn all things together for those who love him. So those are 3 easy tips for confrontation, but I do want to break down 8 simple thoughts around confrontation because, again, I believe confrontation should have a positive connotation in your environment. And if you're scared of confrontation, this podcast is for you. If you avoid confrontation, you avoid growth. Ministry isn't about keeping people comfortable. It's about leading people closer to Jesus. And that takes hard conversations. You just have to be able to communicate what you're seeing. And like I just said, it's share, repeat, share. Share what you are seeing, allow them to respond, and then share back. It's all about having healthy conversations. Because you can't just be good at confrontation with one group of people, not another. It's usually you just feel more confident in environments. Because again, it's not compartmentalized. You either are a person that knows how to confront or you're not. But again, if you want to grow, if you want your team to grow, and if you want your people to grow closer to Jesus, it's going to stem back to your ability to have confrontation. Number 2, confrontation is not conflict. It's clarity. You're not fighting someone when you confront them. You're fighting for clarity, health, alignment, and the mission. So confrontation is not just conflict. There are people, yes, who are just up to trouble. That they're angry and harsh, and they're just trying to constantly curate arguments. I'm not saying arguments. Confrontation is not conflict. Conflict are two. In conflict, sometimes you're going to have to confront the conflict so that you can have a resolution. But really, it's just about clarity. If you really think about it, the root of every single one of these conversations you potentially are going to have, it's just about clarity. It's clarifying where they are in their season. It's clarifying whether they agree or not with something. It's clarifying whether or not you've been clear, health and alignment, like I said. So confrontation in itself is not conflict. If you change the word to clarity, I just want to make sure everyone on my team and everyone who leads in our environment just has clarity. That is most of the time how you can confront. Number 3, silence never solves what courage is meant to fix. Ignoring issues in your church or team doesn't make them go away. It multiplies confusion and resentment. If you are a person who struggles with confrontation, ignoring issues will not make them go away. I'm telling you, it's going to just multiply, and that's what your team will have. They will have confusion and they will have resentment. And honestly, what kind of stinks about this situation here is they're going to have confusion about the mission, but they're going to have resentment toward. And yes, it might actually be their pattern that you're not speaking to, but at the end of the day, you're their primary pastor and leader. So they're going to, in the long run, have resentment towards you and a lack of respect because you were unwilling to have that conversation. So just continue to pray for courage and understand that this is a muscle, and with every muscle takes stretch, growing, and strengthening. And oftentimes it's those uncomfortable conversations that will get you more comfortable because you'll see the outcome. And most of the time, in my experience, the outcome is usually alignment, health, really, again, clarity. So all those things that we've talked about. But again, silence never solves what courage is meant to fix. Number 4, this one might be the most important. True love tells the truth. If you really care about people, you won't let them stay stuck in behaviors, attitudes, or blind spots that hurt them or the mission. Because that's really what you're doing. You don't love somebody if you're not willing to confront them. You really don't. You might like them, you might appreciate what they do for your church, but you don't love them. And it really, it's baffling to me how many people who are in ministry don't know how to have these conversations. And it's oftentimes because the person who is pastoring them is also really soft in this environment where they don't know how to have healthy conflict. And healthy conflict is how you build a great relationship in a marriage, in a friendship, in any nuanced relationship. It all stems back to, am I willing to tell this person the truth? Apply this to the most extreme behaviors. If somebody is perpetually on drugs and you are in their family and you're not willing to have a conversation with them, do you love them? Because you want them to be better. You want them to grow. You want them to flourish. Somebody has a really bad attitude. Older parents, when you have a 17-year-old girl in your house and she has a horrible attitude every day, and you're not willing to correct that or even address it, not even just correct it, you got to make sure that you love the future version of them more than how you feel currently. Your uncomfortability is causing other people not to be able to grow. And apply this to church, it's hurting your mission. So you're telling me God called you to build something, but he's not going to give you the boldness and courage to correct that? That's not true. Every time, if he's called you to do something, he will give you the boldness to step through it. So true love tells the truth. Number 5, confrontation is not about control, it's about stewardship. Leaders don't confront to dominate. We confront because God has trusted us with people, culture, and vision. Do you know how rare it is for God to actually give a vision? To actually give a man a vision? And if you are a person that you believe God has given you a vision, this should mean something to you then. If you're telling me the God of the universe spoke to you about, honestly, a city's, a region, a neighborhood, if he spoke to you about that, you should care about it enough to be willing to protect, correct, and celebrate the people and the vision and the culture. Because what you celebrate gets repeated. What you correct will not. So again, confrontation isn't about control. You're not controlling a future. You're not controlling people. You're not controlling outcomes. What you are doing is you're controlling your stewardship. Because at the end of the day, God's going to hold you accountable of how you loved and cared for his people. And part of that is confronting them. Number 6, a lack of confrontation is often a lack of leadership. When leaders stay quiet, it's usually not kindness, it's fear. And fear always leads to unhealthy culture. If you're a person who really struggles with confrontation, most of the time, this stems back to a fear of rejection, because you're afraid that when you confront them, they're just going to reject you and leave you. Fear of abandonment is right there. But just general fear, most of the time, it just goes back to your identity. You're struggling to understand and have alignment around who God's called you to be. Because if you know who God's called you to be, confronting somebody based on the vision or even you being a pastor and him calling you to do that, you understand, man, I'm a leader and I have to do this because I care about what God's called me to do and I care about people. It's not kindness. It's not kind to just let somebody sit in the blind spot. It's not kind for somebody to sit in a perpetual state of sin. It's your responsibility and call and mandate as a leader to move your fear aside, submit that to Jesus, and understand that fear always leads to an unhealthy culture. Number 7, confront quickly, but confront with care. Timing matters. Avoid delay, but make sure your tone, posture, and prayer are ready before you step in. This is something super easy. 24 hours. You have to have a conversation if it's regarding character or culture within 24 hours. And the classic example is you and your spouse are arguing and you go, let's table it. We'll talk about it later. When? When are you going to talk about it? Put it on the calendar. And because if it's on your calendar, that means it's of value to you. Similar, your leadership with people that you lead in your ministry, whether it's a small group or you're the lead pastor, 24 hours. You are either in person or you're on the phone and you are saying, hey, here's what I'm seeing. And you insert whatever you saw. Also, majority of the time, it just stems back to pastoral care. And most people truthfully don't know how to pastor people. They don't know how to have deep conversations. They don't know how to ask questions to just help people self-discover the way Jesus led. And that's a whole nother conversation. But within 24 hours, you should be having a conversation if it's regarding culture or care. Number 8, and lastly, healthy confrontation creates healthy culture. The goal isn't to just win a moment. It's to build a culture where honesty, accountability, and grace are normal. Ask yourself this right now. Are the people that I lead with honest? Is there a level of accountability, not just downwards, all around? And grace, because there is grace. There is grace for every person who is willing to be honest and willing to grow. It's grace and truth. And when you think about that dynamic, it's not 50-50. Jesus wasn't 50% grace, 50% truth. He was 100% grace, 100% truth. They're not mutually exclusive. You have to be a person who carries themselves with grace and truth. So I'm going to read through these points again. I hope at least one of these thoughts helped you. If you avoid confrontation, you avoid growth. Confrontation is not just conflict, it's clarity. Number 3, silence never solves what courage is meant to fix. Number 4, true love tells the truth. Number 5, confrontation isn't about control, it's about stewardship. Number 6, a lack of confrontation is often a lack of leadership. And number 7, confront quickly, but confront with care. Number 8, healthy confrontation creates healthy culture. So here's 3 easy tips, again, for confrontation ministry. Pray before you speak, address the behavior, not the person, and end with restoration, not destruction. Thanks again for listening to this week's episode on confrontation. Hope this added so much value to you. If it did, if you can, like, subscribe, maybe leave a review in the podcast. It helps us reach more people. I love and appreciate each and every one of you. We'll see you next week.